I could hear that new ways should be taken, new ways of traveling, and so we should take the opportunities that we have, and we want to do that also on the occasion of the ATB. And we want to show that tourism is able to do that. And then now we will have our first panel, the future of our tourism location. So the tourism has a positive future. How will this look like? This is what we will discuss now together with our panelists from tourism, from science and economics. And I would like to ask them to take their seat on the stage. Here you can see the participants, the panelists, the highest position, the chairman of the section in tourism, Mrs. Rauch-Keschmann. So welcome back to our federal section chairman, Robert Seber. And ladies and gentlemen, affiliate of the ÖPP. She is responsible and also president of and CEO of the Rolf Tours Touristic GmbH and president of the Austrian Association for Tourism, Eva Butzi. And then Ferry Terry, CEO of Forum Alpbach. And last but not least, we want to welcome the ecologists and responsible for regional development and they focus on tourism. You know him already. Welcome, Oliver Fritz, CEO of the International Input-Output Association. Good morning, welcome. We got some water. It is we are feeling fine here. The temperature is nice. Outside is already warm. Maybe we will have 40 minutes for this panel discussion. Maybe we'll subdivide it into 20 minutes into two parts. So we will talk first about winter, about the winter season, what can we expect from tourism in the next 3 to 5 years. So we'll get the microphones. Mr. Fritz, you have the microphone already. I would like to start with you because you can introduce this panel discussion. We have heard it already. The longing to traveling is already something we are looking forward to. How do the figures look like for the summer season? What can we expect? During this period of time, it is difficult to make a preview or to predict something because we are in a historically really a very different and unique situation. Now there is also the crisis in the Ukraine, as we all know, and the price increases and the inflation. And this, of course, will also affect the summer season in tourism. I was very optimistic regarding the summer season, but before, of course, now in the last 2 years, we could not travel because a lot of companies were even closed and people were not allowed to travel. And even despite the corona wave, the Omicron wave, the numbers already improved in December, January. And I expected a very good summer season, but then the crisis in the Ukraine arrived. But nevertheless, I think that people want to travel and they will do it as expected. And they will come to Austria, and they will also, the Austrians will travel abroad, but of course the crisis will leave its traces behind, the inflation will leave its traces behind, because people will try to save money, but they will travel despite all this. This is positive. There is people who want to travel, and it was really a Hercules task in the last 2 years for the tourism branch. How do you look? What do you expect for the summer season and the winter season for Austria? When I came to the tourism ministry 4 years ago, the situation was different. Now, in the last 2 years, of course, we had a lot of challenges, but especially the companies had to face challenges in these 2 years, and we didn't know how the situation would evolve and when it would change. And so when we think back of the past, we were talking in the presentations or conferences about the different things. And tourism was a branch that was very fast and changed quickly. And we are always trying to take out the best, to get out the best of the situation, of every situation. So developing rules was important, developing rules under such conditions and rendering holidays possible under these restrictions and conditions was something that really the companies were able to do and were successful in. And the euphoria that we saw at the beginning of this year, and when we saw that the Omicron wave was not that strong, was, of course, then creating a more positive situation and expectations. Now the situation already changed a bit. So you said there is a positive togetherness, and the atmosphere is positive. And if we look at different tourism enterprises, the situation, there is optimism, there is an optimistic attitude. We're talking about different issues. What are the key issues that enterprises have to face? I said it before, I mentioned it. People are looking forward to go on holidays. There is this longing for holidays, and we were talking about the different ways of doing holidays, as Mr. Lissmann said. And we are trying to offer and adapt our offer to these expectations. We have to try to get out the best of our enterprises. And what the feedback that they give to me is, they say that the big problem is still COVID, and then the crisis in the Ukraine, and then the labor market and the high pressure due to the increase of prices. The pandemic is still existing, is not over yet, and so there is still this question mark regarding planning, security. And so when I talk with experts and when we're talking about instruction tools, we would need some hints, some instructions. How do we want to go on with the vaccinations? We have become not worse since 2020, so the COVID crisis is still at hand, and then there is still another crisis, the crisis in Ukraine, and as if one thing would not be enough, we still have another crisis and the inflation. And connected to this, the purchase power that is reduced and is decreasing now. And this is a starting situation where we don't know how it will continue. We have the increase in prices and prices for our normal life, they increase. A 10-liter of oil now costs 38 euros. Before it was 8 euros. And so all these things, of course, they create problems, and we have to face these problems, and we have to find a solution. Otherwise, no tourists will come. And then there is the crisis in Ukraine, and I want to mention also the energy costs, the increase in energy costs, and we would need subsidies here for spas, for thermal companies. In Bad Schalabach, for example, they have energy costs that are really, really high, exploding energy costs. And yes, this is due to the crisis in Ukraine, and this is a big unknown factor, not only, of course, for tourism, for the tourist area, but we know that due to due to the crisis, the problems have increased, and we have, of course, also the problem of staff, that we're lacking staff, and of course we're trying to offer them more free food and accommodation apart from their payment. But the tourism is an area where it is worthwhile working, and we have to convince or to try to attract people to work in the tourism area. Tourist experts have different competencies and capacities. They speak different languages, and they have high competencies. So we have really good people in this area, and this is what we have to face. And then the investment pressure that we see. We did a survey in our branch. 75% of the enterprises want to invest, but the problem is the planning, the lack of planning, security. And so due to Corona, they don't have any money left or any money saved anymore, so they cannot invest. A lot of enterprises have this problem. So I hope that tourism will get a booster here, and we as stakeholders, we asked for another subsidy, another one-time payment for the tourism companies, which they will then invest in sustainability and in sustainable projects. This is what I would wish for our tourism branch. So there is optimism, but a limited optimism. Mrs. Butzi. So now traveling is possible again after 2 years in a very difficult situation of bookings, rebookings, canceling bookings. So what about international traveling business or tourism? Has it also seen a restart? Yes, exactly. That's true. The international tourism is restarting again, and people are now booking their holidays also abroad, also in far destinations. So where do they head to? From Austria, mainly to Italy, Greece, Croatia. but still Austria is one destination that is between the first, because it is seen as a green destination, and after these 2 years the travel and tourism branch now finally sees light at the end of the tunnel, and we hope for a good season and a good next step. So this is also encouraging us again. So conventions, Forum Alpbach is a very important convention site for Austria. How does the situation look like there? Flexibility, I think, is one term and one concept that we need to implement, or we need to support. And in the last 2 years, the situation was really difficult for us, and because the area of conventions, of congresses, was really affected very strongly. So we did hybrid conferences, online conferences in the last 2 years with only a few people present in one place. But of course, this was also a challenge for the entire communication and organization in advance, as you can imagine. So we had to replan our events and conferences and concepts of our events several times. And this was really a challenge. And this year, we try to benefit from the experiences we made during this period of time, and then we'll change something also regarding the concept of the European Forum Alpbach. So we will also implement a bigger change. But this means to be committed, and this means a lot of effort. One colleague left us. I remember one discussion we had. She said that the concept is great. I like it, but I do not want to hear the word change anymore, she said. And I can understand her. I will also respect this decision. So she left because she left us due to this. Of course, I understand, because COVID was a big change now. Also, the crisis in the Ukraine has an impact on our work. So on the social, political, economic level, we have a lot of challenges, and also regarding our topics, and all this will affect us. We have 450 students that receive a grant, a study grant from us, and so we want to have also a peaceful dialogue with different components. Also, as far as the crisis in the Ukraine is regarded. So we start in May with May 31st. We start to sell the tickets, and then we will also present the program. We are ready now, almost 70–80%. So the program is almost ready, and then we will start selling the tickets. This was the first round regarding the preview on the way of traveling in our next season.
Now we come back to the next 3 to 5 years. So there have been a lot of studies that have been made for the future 2023 to 2030. The world has changed. It is no longer as it was before. There have been basic changes. How do you see the future of traveling? So in the next 3 to 5 to 10 years is really we don't know. and we have to have a look at it in a long-term situation. And I think we can't even talk about after the pandemic situation. I think tourism is going to change totally. Now we have the before the pandemic situation and after the pandemic situation. Why do I see it this way? It's because tourism and traveling is one of the biggest changes, because the companies have invested quite a lot in technologies to be able to avoid traveling and meeting up in a virtual way, which I see in the conference industry, that people have stopped traveling. They start to have virtual meetings. In the pandemic situation, my colleague Robert has mentioned it, the tourism branch has been shortened, is no longer so popular anymore. So we have over-tourism, for example, that has stopped before the pandemic situation. Many destinations have too much tourism. Some people haven't accepted this over-tourism. The nature didn't want this over-tourism anymore, and it's very difficult in the conceptually really make a big change, and we have to really consider this and think about it. And the big topic is that we have the climate protection, climate change, and if we cannot stop the climate change or limit it, then we can forget about it. We're not going to know it anymore. So this is the big task of the population, because so Austria is going to do its part, and Austrian tourism will have to do its part, because I've got the utopia. I'm very utopic, so I have this hope and desire that Austria is going to be the touristic center of Europe, and I think we should all work together upon this, and maybe we will make it. So how Rosalisa has said that traveling and holiday is a dream, because it's like a different life. So we can have dreams and a dream of traveling, and we have talked about several topics that I want to talk about. So I'm going to start, Mr. Thierry. I would like to continue. So Mr. Fritz has already said that the digitalization has had a big change, especially in the virtual area. There's been a big change, and it has changed the world. Lots of it has been kept. So why do we still need to go to congresses physically? So as I've already said, in 2021, we are in complete online conferences because the alternative would have been impossible. We didn't want to have the time like have everything online. So we decided to have it in a hybrid way. So analogically, to go back into the analogical world, we thought it's better because, as you know, the European form lives from the location, from the surroundings. There are beautiful mountains, and it's a different surrounding to get to know people, and also in a kind of very informal and comfortable context, and not being in a conference where we're just trying to have a big quick sandwich, a quick orange juice, and a quick small talk. You know, everybody who's already been there, that you have the possibility, you know, to sit in the hotel bar at 11 p.m. with next to the minister, who's already a bit tipsy, and just to talk in an informal way. You know, this possibility, this option, you cannot have it, and you can only have it in the European Forum. And there was also a minister who is a bit more than tipsy, but these things happen, and that's what the Forum, the European Forum, lives from, this informal meeting, and this is what we want to render possible. Again, of course, there's going to be one or the other event that's going to be streamed, and the opening and the closing. But however, living this forum on site should be able also to be lived again and enjoyed again. I think this is very special because we look at the faces, what's good, and having this face-to-face exchange and to have this network, and this is exactly what we would like to have here. So, Ms. Puzzi, the topic that we discussed several times, we talked about sustainability and sustainable tourism. So the big question is, are we going to travel less with the plane and more with the train? So I'd like to listen more to you. What experience have you made within the tourism? Where are the sustainable concepts that have been taken up, and how do you consider the future in the next few years? Well, sustainability in tourism is a big lack still, and if I have to think of my second job, because yes, as I said, we have to know, I mean, Professor Fritz has already mentioned it, that tourism in the future is not going to be what it has been in the past, and it's not going to be as it was in Corona, so there's going to be a development, and our decision is, are we going to continue in this direction and this development? I mean, that this development is coming is clear, but whether we want this development is another topic. So, right. So when we talk about tourism, we know that with the old principle, there is a mean value of the visions of the ecological footprint is due to the traveling, and from traveling, that means the arriving and departing rather than the actual stay. So here we have a look at precisely this and avoid the comings and going. We avoid the mobility. So what happens with the departure and arrival, so that not everybody who takes the car, who takes the plane, cannot be placed into a train? That's clear. Us as a tourist agency, tourist responsibles have the responsibility to be there for the customers, to work for the customers and say, what can we do together to make your holidays more sustainable? Maybe there are 3 weeks instead of 2 weeks. So that maybe we have a wellness holiday in a different way. Where do I want to concentrate? What possibilities do I have instead of flying? Don't maybe not go by car to the airport, maybe go by train. So we've got a toolbox at our disposition where I have the responsibility that our customers can then have this, and it's going to be a very big pressure upon us, and it doesn't matter what we're going to do, it's not going to be the same as it was before. So a different form of traveling, a different form of holiday. So we have innovative concepts that we can make it together, maybe traveling differently. So thank you so much. We've listened to so much. We've listened to so many topics about sustainability. You've talked about staff and members. What would you tell the audience who are here today? What would you recommend them concerning investments? If we look at this, where would you like to put your focus on? Concerning the investments, there is this wording, no risk, no fun. So me as a businessman, I have to be able to calculate risk, and due to the lack of planification, that has not been the case. And William Tell said that the option is possible to invest. I think it is a time of investment, and due to the high potential after the pandemic situation, what we can see, what Oliver Fritz said, the people want to travel, they want to leave, they want to go, and I think the possibilities are good, and the economic indicators always show us, go to the top, what the touristic development is. And my business colleagues, I'm not the biggest guru of traveling, and but I know we know this from many discussions, that what we work upon, that we talk about resilience, that we become resilient towards upcoming crises. It's going to be more and more the case that we're going to be confronted with. And we hadn't expected this in the past. So this can also have to do with the psychology of the business people. Now, with the pandemic situation, it suddenly arrived, it went bang, bang, and then it was there. And we have to consider going in to continue and ask ourselves about our business and about our business model. So what I talked about previously was this customer relationship, this strengthening of customer relationship after the crisis. I mean, there with my, my guests, my regular guests, and this is going to be a lot stronger. We have to look after our regular guests, and what do the guests want? What are our guests' desires, and have this relationship management. On the other hand, we have the problematics of the members of staff, so valuing them. And at the weekend, we cannot avoid this when we work on that. I have listened to several discussions. It's just going to be cheap, cheap, cheap. But I still think there's going to be a counter movement of the whole digitalization, that the personality of the analogy of tourism is on the emotional level, and that is going to have a future. So then we can also talk about sustainability. Sustainability is the key word. It's funny because here in Austria we have a beautiful thing that is our drinking water quality. What do you do with water? What do how do you go about with water? How do you go about with trash? I mean, where do you get your food from? Do you work with regional food? And in future, we should not undervalue this. And the digitalization is our daily task, our daily presence, this robotic data management, big data, and to know exactly this and that. So this is here, and we have to integrate it into our life, and we have to go into the software and analogically go to Professor Lissman. I just want to say that as was said before, this traveling is always going to be, in one form or another, people are going to continue traveling. I mean, traveling is life, and life is a long trip. So we can't live without traveling, so we shouldn't be frightened or worry about tourism. If I look at the last figures, I also want to say that everything is rising rapidly and steadily. I wish that it's going to stay this way, and Frau Kretschmann, tourism is important. What role has tourism in the future? Will it have the same role as it did before the pandemic situation? Well, this is a clear yes from my behalf, and I see that traveling in the future, as we can see, people are going to travel, and Austrian tourism is definitely at the top, and is going to play a central role, not just because we need the tourism, it's also because no other branch is in such a big region. In all the regions from Austria, there are industrial areas, but in the whole of Austria, there are tourism areas, and there's some regions that are relevant in the summer, winter sports, where without tourism, we would not have any infrastructure, workplace, so we wouldn't have any quality of life, which I have to say, and the towns. And now in Vienna, we are here, and all the capitals and all the little towns that are maybe in the background that have been developed, and they have got a great potential. And here we invite them to in the next few years, so they will have a bigger focus in the tourist branch. And so why in future? What do we have for the future? How can we have future? We can have a future only if we stay sustainable, and we have to really be sustainable, believe in sustainability, and have the 3 dimensions of sustainability that at the time that was already in our planification, and it has stayed, and it's going to stay, and it's going to be in future. So we need economic, strong, healthy businesses, and since the governments have invested so much, and especially in the tourism with measures, health measures, so that they can structure this and bring it through the crisis. And these are really planned with self-capital, because the structures are such that we cannot blame the individual business person. We've invested so much, and here we need to have the framework so that the companies can work better and have also places, and that we have a stronger focus. The ecological sustainability for a place like Austria is just as important as other countries. If we don't protect our country, and I've listened to Professor Lissman, it wasn't long ago that we saw nature as being endangered. And if we look at nature in a professionality, then these dangers that you talked about have an effect. And at the same time, it is our task and it's our responsibility in the tourism branch that we make it possible that people travel, but still that we protect nature, that we can pass it on to the next and the next and the next and the next generation, and still have tourism. But this also means that if we talk about nutrition and we talk about the food elements, I mean, also, you know, where do they come from? Where is gas from? Where is food from, etc.? And in the past, we hadn't we neglected that, and we have to really refocus on the cultural dimension. How much tourism is all right for the inhabitants of the area? Because people often say, well, the strategy of Vienna, we should not annoy people. And I'm going to go one step further. We really need lively regions where the guest feels welcomed, where they have the impression we can create things together, where we can think together, where our strengths, where our weaknesses, where do we want to go, where we want to develop. There, I think it makes sense within the region to work together, to sit down together and to find solutions together, because tourism is also always a load, and to find a balance, how much load it is and how much potential it is for the region. I think that is one of the biggest challenges that we're facing, and Austria has the best concepts, because the innovational strength with the digitalization, which I really liked, can be used to make also a visitor to get the visitors to their localities, to their goals, and the few members of staff that we still have, and if we don't have enough members of staff, to help them to work with the clients and with the guests and find systems to do them locally. Changes, and I mean, I understand your collaborators. I mean, these days facing a lot of changes, and at the end, we cannot change it. And I think that the axis that at the end we have a chance at the end for tourism, for the country, for the own company, for the own region, for the own possibilities, I think is also what we should keep. This positive thought, this positive pathway for the future, and we can only do this together. And thank you, Robert, and also the State Secretary. We have this very clear vision that we need to work together, and all the federal states know that we need together, and also the regions are present, and the various associations are all there. They all work together, and this is the most important aim that we want from the Ministry of Tourism. That's our big task, that we need to work together, because we need to see what can the government, what can politics do to give the framework to become better, and this dream idea of Oliver Fritz, that Austria is the sustainable destination of the world, and we're going to stay with it. Thank you very much. Yes, although we are frightened, we know that tourism has future. We can look at it with pride, with happiness, and we're strong in the branch. And it can be done with a courageous perspective. We don't have much time. Has holiday changed? What's the future? Dear Ms. Butzi, I haven't booked yet. Oh, you haven't booked yet? Well, I am going to a wedding in Sicily. I'm compensating this, but I'd also compensate. But I need to go also to another wedding in Slovenia. But this is yeah. So that sounds very brilliant, Mr. Zeber. I cannot live without the seaside. I'm a Mediterranean type. Otherwise, I don't feel fulfilled. So I'm also going to go skiing in winter, or I like to go to the Austrian lakes. And as people who works in the tourism branch, there is no holiday where we don't go from fast food to the normal, to the various restaurants, and there we are happy to see where, if it's not possible, it doesn't matter, but we do like traveling a lot. Yes, so you like to make the most of the holidays, dear Mrs. Cashman. Yes, I'm also happy about some quiet evenings in Vienna where you're sitting in the town center and you sit in a garden, in a beer garden, and you have a nice little evening. That also sounds like wonderful relaxation in your home country, and that's very nice. And what about you, Mr. Thierry, are you happy? Yes, we're going to have also a nice holiday, and we're going to stay here regionally at home. And we have 2 countries where we can stay, which is nice since we have these both countries. That's beautiful who has this privilege. So I wish you a very nice holiday, and I hope that the tourism in summer is also going to continue, and in winter that it's going to continue this way. Thank you much, Ms. Butzi, Professor Fritz, Mr. Sieber, Ms. Rausch-Goschmann, Mr. Ferry-Thierry. So thank you so much. It was fun talking to you. Thank you. Thank you.